Hello everybody, Volen here. I want to talk to you today about how it took me 5 years to barely improve at drawing. You can see some of the work that I've done at the very beginning here, and some of it, maybe for some people that are starting out, might seem okay, like this guy, but really this was all copied, and in terms of long-term improvement effort, it really didn't do very much for me, because sometimes copying is incredibly unfun and laborious, and you can see what happens when you just don't feel like finishing your copying, right? This is kind of the true level. I was never doing things with understanding. I was just copying stuff primarily for about almost 5 years, and you can see at the end of 1 year, let's say if this is the level of the copying, this is the level of imagination stuff that I was able to do at the time, and that's just not where I wanted to be with the drawing, right? I thought that doing things like this would improve me, but this is where the imagination level was at. And then this is after I understood what I was doing wrong, and I got a little bit of a framework of understanding of what exactly drawing is. This is the improvement over the next year. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why it happened, why I didn't really get better for 5 years, and then why I improved so much in the year after. I'm also going to talk you through some of the future videos that we're going to be making, because I want to make a little framework for you guys for understanding drawing. So stick around if you want to find out about those things. With this next series, I want to try and present you guys with my current understanding of drawing. So when I was first starting out, I made a ton of mistakes, and it's really no surprise. I am self-taught. When you're self-taught, you're the navigator, but you have absolutely no understanding of what you're getting yourself into and no map. So the odds of you hitting the right place are almost zero, especially when art is such a vast ocean of information and different paths that you could possibly take. So I got lost at sea a lot, and I'm hoping that some of these things that I've learned through that will be helpful to you. And I'm saying all this because I don't want to present myself as some sort of drawing expert. I'm definitely not. I've gotten way more things wrong over time than I have done correctly. But when I did start to get a little bit of a better understanding, I'll show you why I got to improve more in 1 year than in the 5 years before that. And this is why I want to do these videos, because I'm hoping that by giving you a framework, you'll be better able to take your own development in your own hands. You won't be so reliant either on having to constantly find the new video that's going to show you the new technique of how to do a nose better or an eye better. Hopefully you'll be able to understand just what drawing is, and then you'll be better prepared to study when you get to that stage, if you're not there yet, and understand how things fit together. I'm not thinking that, these videos will be the end all of all of that. I am just going to try and do a first pass, and hopefully with your guys' help, over time, we can develop these into some more comprehensive videos. So what you're seeing on your screens right now, that's my ultimate goal. That'll be the understanding drawing or deconstructing drawing, trying to break down the different levels of skill that go into it. Some people are worried that they're copying, some people are studying, but they're actually copying. Some people think that what they're doing is good, but it turns out to be the wrong thing. That was me a lot of the time. Also, at the very beginning, it's difficult to understand what it is that you're doing exactly, because like I said, if you're self-taught, your big picture view is very limited. You can only see a very short window ahead of where you are right now. So it very often turns out that what you just did that you thought is correct is actually either very incomplete or only a partial understanding or partial development of a much bigger skill, that all of a sudden you realize, man, I spent so much time on this minor thing, but this is what I should have been doing instead. So talking about those things will be the ultimate goal. You can see that there's some levels that I've listed on one side, and then traps, because we'll get caught in a lot of things that are unimportant or ideas that are pretty common that have become kind of like a basis of understanding that are also false. And we're going to have some maps, different things that are hopefully going to help you build your understanding so that you know where you are and how to get to the next level. Before we get there, in the next video, I'll be talking to you about types of drawing, because I think it's really important for someone starting out to understand that when we say drawing, different artists will mean very different things. And that's one of the massively horrible things with studying art, is that the same word will mean very different things depending on who you talk to. Rendering could be a 3D guy's term, it could be an industrial designer's term, it could be an artist's term, but they will be used in very different understandings. So if you are not conscious of that, then what you might be hearing from people and thinking that that's what they mean, they might be meaning a very different thing to what you hear just because of the interchangeable use of all of these words. So drawing and what it meant to me at the beginning is very different to what it means to me now. So I'll try and expose you guys quickly to just some of the different types of drawing that are out there and how they work together. I think they're not opposed to each other, even though different schools teach the different methods of drawing, and sometimes they will speak, one against the other school, just like in classic kung fu movies. But really, to me, they all work together. It's all kung fu, bro. Drawing kung fu. All right, so today we're going to talk about why I didn't really improve for about 5 years, my first 5 years, and the reasons for that. So when I first started out, I started out in art. So I started at 25. I really had zero understanding of anything when I started, and it kind of started with YouTube. I saw Feng Zhu do a lot of what Feng Zhu does. If you don't know who he is, he's a concept designer, and he has worked on pretty much almost anything and everything that's out there that's the biggest and the best. And he's also an incredibly skilled artist and designer. And he also uses a lot of the more advanced techniques that I really wasn't ready for, but I also didn't understand how to get there. And I would look at what he does and I would just try and do the same things. And since I was doing this by myself, I would selectively look at what he does and selectively hear what he says, because really when you're on your own, you kind of have your own filter of understanding of how things work. And a lot of times you'll hear the right things, but you actually are not going to hear any of those because you're just not looking for those. You have an idea of how something works and you're kind of just looking for more things that are going to confirm that. And it's not until at some point you hit a wall and you start re-examining all kinds of things and you realize, man, this was always in front of me, but I just didn't hear it. That's one of the bad parts about not having someone mentor you. Because I feel like a lot of the mistakes that I've made, I feel like someone could really just have pulled me aside and like, hey, this thing that you're doing, it's okay, but really this is how it's applied. And I feel like something that a talk that would have taken 10 minutes for someone to just tell me something would have saved me, months or years of just going down blind alleys. But I also, to some degree, understand that that's not how it works. Sometimes you just won't hear it, or you still need to go down the wrong path until you learn, but it still sucks though. So I would be watching him do his stuff. So a lot of photo bashing, so using photos and textures and all kinds of things to get a design, to establish a piece. And then I also started looking at some of the other current best pros in the industry, and I would see a lot of using of photos, but even more directly. So people would be using photos as just elements. They will take compositions from it, they will take lighting, they will take a whole bunch of information just from one image that's already been done. And I would also see using 3D, so a 3D model versus a drawing, and people would just take these photos and 3D models, put them together, and then just touch up here and there, overpaint a little bit, and that's done. So a lot of times you don't even get to see drawing. Drawing becomes invisible in a way. So again, if you're on your own, it becomes very difficult to understand exactly what's going on. So I started looking at drawing in kind of a production-oriented way, meaning what does drawing give me? And like, what does a photo give me? What does a 3D model give me? And those seemed very superior. I mean, 3D model gives me geometry. So if I model something instead of draw it, then I can rotate it and I can light it. I get all this extra information that I could get from that. So what is drawing then in this context? Well, drawing is just line. Drawing gives me some lines and that's it. So that was my initial understanding, and this is also when we talk in the next video about different types of drawing. I was essentially thinking of drawing only in observational drawing terms. I wasn't advanced enough to see it as a bigger thing. And the thing is, at that time, I was doing Scott Robertson's courses and also reading his book and applying all that stuff, but it still really didn't stick with me because I was looking at other tools as superior, and I really didn't push drawing, and I didn't really understand what the difference is between a beginner at drawing and someone who is really a lot more advanced. And there's so many perks that come with training drawing, because drawing to me now isn't the same thing that it used to be then. It used to be line. Now really drawing for me is the basis of the visual language. It's the basis of expression, of shape design. Like, it's so much easier to train yourself to make better shapes and to understand design when you're just drawing things out, because you can go through hundreds or thousands of iterations very, very quickly. And you can get a lot of mileage from that rather than having to always 3D model something and then get stuck in a lot of other things that are in the way of just purely training, let's say, your design language, if that's what you're training at the time. Or another thing that I think of drawing right now as is it's 3D navigation. It's the basis of navigating 3D space on a two-dimensional surface, which unless you're doing just abstract squares and rectangles and lines and things like that, if you're involved in any type of drawing that represents something, in any type of art that's representative, so it could be extremely stylized or it could be very realistic, it doesn't really matter. But as long as you're having something that has space and dimension, drawing kind of becomes this passive skill, just like in a game. You have a passive skill that's always active that, depending on your skill level, determines how well you'd be able to position things, how well then you'd be able to stylize things. It becomes crucial even when doing 3D and photo bashing and all that stuff, because if you want to change anything, then you need to apply drawing. So even though you may not see someone use drawing in the way that we think of drawing, as like they won't go and draw a line over top of something to correct, they may just go ahead and paint something out or paint something in or change the lighting or any of that stuff, the lighting angle. A lot of that would be dependent on just understanding the 3D form that's in the scene, and that comes from drawing. I would put that under the umbrella of drawing. So at a high level, drawing just becomes this ability to navigate 3D space, to move things around, to create three-dimensional form, which is essentially what we're after. And that's a pretty long road from just thinking of drawing as just a bunch of lines to then thinking of drawing as a visual language, to understanding that drawing is basically the grammar of the visual language of art. Drawing is the grammar. It holds everything together, and it's easily one of the most important things. So let's talk you through some of these things, then let's show you the better work, and then let's get finished over here, moving on to the next video. So this is the first year, essentially. These are all from my first year of doing art, and like I said in the beginning, this is really what I was primarily doing, was copying. And you can see this is 2013, 2013, 2013, all of these. 2014 for this one, this is the Scott Robertson method. And then finally, over here is 2017, when I realized that, man, what I was missing all this time and why a lot of my work was suffering is because I really didn't have a good foundation, a good basis, which I thought I did. So this is one of the other things, is when I thought the drawing is just line, I actually thought I maxed out drawing in like a year. I was like, cool, you know, I can pretty much look at something and then, you know, draw it. So I would think, like I said, it's just copying. So I will take an image from here, move it over here to my image. So I could copy pretty much anything, I thought at that time. So, okay, this is it for drawing. Let's now move on to photo bashing. Let's move on to 3D. Let's move on to all these other techniques. So, and I know, by the way, that this is copied because you can look at detail, for instance, that is just, it's nonsensical, right? It doesn't really matter if I copied the exact location of the texture here, but you can see that I've actually tried to copy the exact location of each and everything, which is meaningless, right? This type of drawing is very observational, but it's mechanical copying observational. It isn't really analyzing, it's not really understanding what's happening in the scene. So more advanced drawing is really analyzing each and everything, which is why Glenn Vilpo and Steve Houston were the people that just really opened my eyes to this, because Steve Houston painted a painting that I thought should take hours and hours and hours of work, and he did it in a couple minutes, and I was like, man, I've been thinking of this 3D modeling and photo bashing stuff, and then this guy just did something that would have taken me a longer time with what I thought were the better tools, and he just did it in front of me right now using nothing but just a brush, and that was it. And you know, it was a pretty big blow at the time to admit that I've not spent enough time on that stuff, but hey, you know, I found the people. I found Steve Houston, I found Glenn Vilpo. Glenn Vilpo essentially analyzes, when he's drawing, he's just talking you through each and everything that he does. And I realized this is what I need to be doing, instead of just looking at, okay, you know, where is this line, how far away, so, you know, measuring with my stylus, how far away is this from his head, and what's the vertical, what's the horizontal. Instead of doing that and copying stuff, he's analyzing. Like if he were doing this image, he would probably be thinking of just what the perspective of the wall is here and how it's receding, and then he would be thinking of overlaps, and he would be analyzing the form of the head and how things fit together. I did none of that when I was doing this image. I was just looking at patches of value and shapes and just copying those over on my piece. That's all that I did. And the same thing here. And you can see I just probably felt bored enough and uninterested enough at that time to keep doing that, because it's no point. This is just manual labor, mechanical, just moving this piece over to here and this patch of tone over to here. There's no point to that. It's no fun, and it really doesn't improve you. It improves your mechanical skill, which may be necessary at the very beginning, but after that, I was really spinning my wheels for a pretty long period of time. And you can see I did that over and over and over, and I've gotten here 5 out of probably hundreds that I did in that first year. And then so this is when I started, 2017, right? About 5 years later, almost 5 years later, looking at Steve Houston and Glenn Vilppu, and I first admitted that I had to go back and, okay, dude, let's redo all of this stuff that we don't know. So this is October 2017. I started doing 10,000 drawings. You can check out a video that I have on that. And so this is, where are you guys on the camera? This is about 4,000 or 5,000 over here, and then another folder with another few thousand. They're nothing special, but they're just more. You can see it's a different style now. It's no longer just trying to do and more. So just piles and piles of drawing, but it's no longer just copying stuff over there. You can see this would be very different to how these are made. This is a lot of volume now and trying to understand form. And the reason why I'm talking about this, I didn't get better only because I did the 10,000 drawings. If I were doing the 10,000 but I did them thinking about the wrong things, not analyzing stuff, just copying, I wouldn't have improved at all. And I remember reading this one post on Facebook. Someone had done like 100 or 1,000 hands, I can't remember. But I remember it was a big number. And I remember that the person at the end also said, I really don't feel like I improved much. And that stuck with me because I'm like, okay, if it's not the number, then what is it? And also, there was a comment here about the homework that I give you guys. So I can't give you, do 1,000 lines, do 1,000 cubes, because there's no point. I don't know what you're thinking when you're doing the cube. You can do 1,000 cubes and not really improve very much at all. You'll probably get a little bit better, hopefully. But if you're not thinking about the right things and you're not thinking at all, if you're just listening to music and you're just grinding out the 1,000 cubes, you won't get much farther. But if you just do 10 cubes with attention and you're truly really analyzing, correcting, troubleshooting, and doing them over and over, 10 cubes can be a massive amount of improvement. So this is why the long talk before I show you guys the better work is, because really it was mostly the key to all of this was just understanding, changing my understanding of what it is that I'm doing, getting a bigger framework, a bigger picture to fit things in, so that now I understand that each and every drawing is actually improving each and every subsequent drawing. So now when I'm doing something, I'm not just copying, I'm actually thinking either about shape or I'm analyzing form, and each and everything I try to push it a little bit so that each and every drawing afterwards is better. So all the drawings feed each other. And this is a constant process. I'm constantly discovering how I could be doing it better. And okay, let's look at the better stuff. All right, I'm gonna turn off the camera in just a sec so it's not overlapping the images over here, but I just wanna show you, this is just a random piece of paper. So just a random sheet that I picked out from the 10,000 pile. And you can see this is what a study for me kind of looks like. So when I was copying things, I was trying to make them, look good. I was trying to make them look like the image, and I thought that that was good. And you can see that studies actually look quite different. Let's do another one. Studies are often quite messy because really studies are about understanding things. I'm trying to actually explain to myself what it is that I'm drawing with drawing. So I'm trying to understand the form. I'm trying to deconstruct it. This is what I'm concerned with. I'm not trying to make a pretty drawing. So the better work that you can see on your screens, that's actually just a side effect of thinking better, of thinking more clearly, of just troubleshooting and analyzing things, and the better outcome is the outcome of that. Okay, so let's have a look at these. So I'll zoom you guys in and try and show you these a little bit and just see how they're different to the copied ones. You can see actually the studies that I just showed you. You can see that the more finished drawings, I mean, they're not really meant to be finished. They're still just studies, really. I just picked out some of those, but really you can see that the thinking here is very different. Like, there's so much form, and I'm analyzing things. You can't see the reference over here, but meaning the picture that it was drawn from, but you can just feel, even without the image, and even without any shading, just this one drawing communicates a lot of form. So I'm no longer concerned with just lines. I don't think of drawing like that anymore. It's analyzing form. This comes directly from Glenn Vilppu and Steve Houston. And even the style that I use, actually, one more thing. I like one thing that Steve Houston mentioned in one of his lectures is that his process of drawing is the small part has to be done the same way that the big part is done, and then the painting over top of that is done with the same process. So that made a ton of sense, because to me, at the beginning, drawing and painting were different things, and I would do them differently, but he actually managed to unify all of that stuff for me, which then made me value the process even more, and understanding that I really need to improve this stuff, because this is the framework of being able to stack things one on top of the other and get all of them improved. So actually getting better at drawing obviously also improved my painting. And then there were things that were specific to painting that I had to improve, but with time that also got better. So this is basically when I started drawing like this, it actually improved all kinds of different drawings. So you can see just my sense of form got better. So this is a Feng Zhu study over here with just some more technical perspective, I guess, and just some more form analysis. But you can see that this type of drawing, just more organic forms and more mechanical forms, they all got better from the same type of thinking. And it doesn't really matter what the subject is at this stage, it's just all about form. So it doesn't really matter what it is that I'm drawing, it all feels the same way because I'm always looking at form, always analyzing what it is that I'm doing, and always trying to correct and do better and find out where I'm getting stuck and what the problems are, and just solve those, just problem solve, instead of copying things and just translating a little bit over to the left or over to the right and doing things like that that really have no application after that. It trains your mechanical accuracy, but if you're looking to actually do stuff from imagination, to be able to create your own things that will be made of form and volume, then really copying doesn't help you with that at all. And for the first 5 years, like I said, I was essentially mostly concerned with copying because I just did not understand what drawing would be like when it's at a more advanced level. And I saw 3D and I was attracted by the shininess of photobashing and the quickness of it. And I mean, it's a legitimate method to use. I still use all of that stuff, but really a stronger foundation is required. And I just did not understand that at the time. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the different types of drawing and hopefully clarify some more my moving away from just lines to thinking in terms of volume and form. And the video after that will be deconstructing or understanding drawing. So your guys' feedback, as usual, is crucial with all this stuff because I need to understand what is making sense, what isn't making sense, so we can clarify and make better videos for you guys. Now I'm going to put myself on my spacey, mind-blown background over here as we wrap up. Someone said that the background looks like it's going to show you the meaning of life or something, so I'm right in the middle of that. So, well, trust in me, people, trust in me. Alright, so if this video helped you, please like the video. Please subscribe if you would like to see more. That lets me know that people are enjoying the videos and they're finding them helpful. If you've heard me mention Glenn Vilppu and Steve Houston at least 100 times in each and every video, it's because they've been incredibly helpful to me. And they have a special offer for you guys from New Masters Academy. If you go to checkout, type in my name as the coupon, VOLENCK, all one word, at checkout. You get 15% off each and every month for the duration of your subscription. And you'll also be supporting the channel. So one thing I'll throw in here, which I guess is only for the hardcore watchers out there, because no one would have made it through that long a video, is I'm really struggling trying to balance doing videos and doing my own work. And also I did disappear for an entire year, so I have portfolios to build and all kinds of stuff, and I really have so many things that I need to keep working on. And I also being completely transparent with you guys, like I always have been, because I'm just documenting how this thing has gone for me. I have no reason to hide anything or embellish anything. Ever since I've moved over, so I don't live in the country I was born in, ever since I've moved for the past 11 years, I've essentially just been living on rent and food and paying bills, and that's been a necessary part because I've always had to learn during that time, and I'm happy. I don't really care for that, but I need to get a little bit started on the business side as well. So I may be taking some time away, or I may be just needing some extra time in between videos. I'm not too sure yet. I don't want to discontinue, but it just depends on... I've promised you guys that I'm going to do the Understanding Drawing series, so we are going to finish that, and afterwards I'll see what happens after that. So homework for this video is I would like you to just think. So this will be incomplete. We haven't completed the series, and no one says that at the end of it that I hope you have a better understanding, but you know, you'll probably still have a ways to go after that. I would like you to think about what you think about when you're drawing, when you're practicing. Are you just moving things a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right? And I just mean you're looking at something and that's the reference image, and I need to move it over on my image here. Are you just copying things straight? Which also, that does have some merit, and we'll talk about that in the next few videos. But is this all that you're doing, or are you analyzing? Are you thinking of why the image looks the way that it does? Why is it that the form that you're drawing is there in the first place? You know, what are the things that make it appear the way that it does? Because this is what's going to allow you to then do your own work, to work from imagination, from memory, from whatever it is that you want to call it. Just moving things to the left or to the right, that doesn't translate. I mean, you're not really understanding why the image looks the way that it does. In order to be able to do your own work, you need to have a very good grasp of the geometry that's happening in the scene, the volumes that are there. So are you just thinking in terms of copying? Are you doing kind of shallow practice, or are you doing deep practice? Trying to feed things into a bigger framework, and not just this is the one drawing, it's completed, and that's it, it's an isolated thing. Are you able at this stage to put everything together? And if not, right, if not, just try and think, how and why am I doing this drawing, and how could it possibly benefit all the other drawings that come after that. There's no one that's going to come and reprogram your brain for you. You are essentially, even with good mentors, even with good teachers, you are still on your own. You know, how much of their teaching you apply, that's down to you. It's up to you, even with, you know, the videos that we're talking about here, it's still up to you to program your own framework of what is it that I'm doing and how does it benefit everything else that I'm doing after that. And you may be wrong sometimes, and you probably will. You should be. Otherwise, you're some sort of insane genius, because it's just not possible to get things right each and every time. Pretty sure you guys understand it by now. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Share your homework if you feel it. And I'll see you around. Thank you very much.